Hey everyone, welcome to the special Thanksgiving edition to the Living Enviado podcast. I was trying to think of what I wanted to share this weekend because I am going solo today. But of course, Thanksgiving was 2 days ago for us in the US. And I know that many of my friends around the world join in on this holiday, even though it is an America, US specific holiday. But, welcome. If you join in with us and you celebrate in your home country, then, we're happy that you do. I know many people get a little bit earlier with Christmas or kickstarted with Christmas than we do in the States, although that's changing quite a bit. And I had my tree up before Thanksgiving anyway, so there's that. But as I was thinking about what to talk about related to Thanksgiving, I was thinking about what my wife does. So every year she I don't know how many years ago we started this tradition, but she outlined like a tree trunk and some branches, and she posted on one wall near our kitchen. And then she outlined some leaves and orange and yellow and red. And every day, everyone in the family writes down what they're thankful for the entire month of November. And so this has become an annual tradition for us during November specifically. And we don't stop on Thanksgiving Day. We go until November 30th. And then she saves them from year to year so that we can go, periodically we may go back and look at what we said. Now, there's a lot of things we say every year that are the same. We're thankful for the Lord. We're thankful for salvation. We're thankful for all these things. And so there's some things that are, you could say, we're going to say it every single year. I'm thankful for the Bible, 100%. And that's always going to be posted up there. Thankful for my wife, my kids, my family. So I wanted to share some things that are different from those a little bit. One might not be, but I was just thinking about that. What are, I guess, 5 things? I could go on and on about so many things I'm thankful for. But I decided, let's just come up with 5 things that I'm thankful for, apart from family, apart from the Lord. I mean, those are, I think, a given. And I am extremely thankful, and I don't want to minimize that for the least, because you can't minimize that. They like the epitome of thankfulness of what's on the list. If you have a list of thankful items or thankful things or people you're thankful for, those are at the top of the list. Always the Lord, and then it's always my family. And then you kind of go down from there. But I was thinking in relation to living sent. So in this case, living sent. Yes, the Lord is part of that. My family is part of that. And you know what? I'm actually going to mention that. But yeah, I'll get into that in a minute. So number 1, what am I thankful for as it relates to living Enviado? I'm thankful for the gospel. I'm going to read my notes that are in front of me. That's kind of why I'm looking down, but I'm thankful for the gospel and the power it has to change lives. Last year, was it last year? No, this year. No, sorry, last year. Last summer of 2024, I was in the Middle East, and I was in Nepal, got sick. I started getting sick on the way out, a couple of different things. One actually was a respiratory issue. One was something else. I won't get into that. But anyways, I got sick. By God's grace, I didn't really get too sick till I got home, but I had to go through the Middle East first, and my plan was to stop there for a couple of days, see some of my colleagues, spend time with them, but I had to cut that part of the trip short, and I really didn't feel like going anywhere. I just wanted to hang out in my hotel until I could get to the airport and get home. But anyways, my friends, my colleagues there kept saying, no, please come to our apartment. So I got to the point where I felt like I could safely get to the apartment, or to the guest house as they call it, and spend a little bit of time. And I warned them, look, I'm not going to be able to spend a lot of time with you. It's just going to be a brief visit, but I would love to see you guys. And thankfully they were nearby, so it wasn't a big ordeal to get there. I didn't have to take a taxi or anything. And I met this brother. I walked into the guest house. I've never seen him before. He was a bit intimidating, to be honest. And so we're talking, and he spoke incredible English, got to meet his wife. But again, they looked intimidating, wearing all black, had all this silver jewelry all over their hands and wrists and necklaces and things like that. I mean, it just had this intimidating look. I wish I could have a picture of them, but for security reasons, I can't show a face of them. But as we were talking, I'm hearing about his passion for planning a new church and what God is doing. It was quite amazing. I mean, what I sensed walking in was not what the conversation at all was about. And so as we left, actually they left, and then I told my friends, I think I need to get back to the hotel. So they took me by their car. They drove me over there since it was nearby. And as we were talking, I said, who's this guy? And they said, oh, let me tell you a story about him. So the short story of this guy. He was a Satanist. He worshiped Satan. He, according to them, prior to Christ, let's just say it, he did some horrible things. I mean, horrible things. Like, just think about how horrible, what's the worst thing you could think of? Multiply that. I mean, it was just mind-boggling what I heard. But fascinating at the same time, because it just proves how incredibly powerful the gospel is. Because even in the midst of what he claims as worshiping Satan, and I'm not talking about an American Satanist, I mean someone who truly worships Satan, and some of the other things he did that are just, if I saw you in person, I would probably tell you, but again, I don't know the guy's name. I don't remember his name. I can't tell you where he's at now. I wish I could get him on this podcast. I have asked, but he's not willing to do it yet. But he did say yet. So maybe just be praying that one day he'll be willing to do it, because I think he has a story that, wow, would cause every hair in your body to stand straight up. But it just shows how powerful the gospel is. And that's why it's on the number one on my list. It's obviously second to God, second to being thankful for God. But God created the gospel. He created the message. He created the good news. So I'm very thankful for it, because it is powerful. And it can change even the most hardened hearts. And so when you look at the people who you think, oh, they're never going to believe, they're just so far gone, they're just so far hardened, just remember, it's not true. Paul the Apostle, I would label him as a terrorist before he was Paul the Apostle. When he was Saul of Tarsus, before he became a believer, he was a terrorist. He was hell-bent on destroying the church and murdering and massacring every single believer that existed. So yes, he was a terrorist. No different from this guy, to be honest. No different from this guy I'm talking about. So if God can change their hearts, he can change anyone's heart. And that's just how amazing the gospel is. Number 2, I'm thankful for my brothers and sisters in Christ who teach me how to persevere. So I get the incredible privilege of traveling to multiple countries around the world on a regular basis every single year. I've had the privilege of living abroad. And yes, as an American, I think it was a privilege of living abroad and experiencing something different and seeing people and not looking at it as, oh, I'm going to go there and walk away thinking, oh, how blessed I am. Okay, I know I'm blessed to live in the United States, but that's not why I lived over there. I didn't live over there to come to that conclusion. I lived over there to see God work. And I've gotten to meet some believers in many countries, and very difficult countries, who have taught me how to persevere. I mean, we often go as Americans on trips to these countries, and we're there to teach them. We're there to educate them. We're there to equip them, believers to believers. But rarely do we invite them to our territory for them to teach us, to equip us, to educate us. It's an off-balanced scenario. So while, in many cases, they just don't have the ability to travel because of visa issues or monetary issues, and we do have more of a luxury in that area, the reality is we still have so much to learn from them. And by God's grace, I've been able to learn so much. And one of those things is learning how to persevere in challenging circumstances, like truly challenging circumstances, not first world problems. First world problems, yes, they can be challenging, but let's be honest, they're first world problems. But these believers that I'm talking about have taught me how to persevere, because they do it so well, and they face obstacles that many of us, let's be honest, in the West, we would not want to embrace. Okay, we want to fight against it, but they embrace it. And they persevere because they see God moving in such powerful ways. Going back to number 1, the power of the gospel. Okay, the gospel power is never hindered by circumstances or location at all. And believe me, I've got some stories. Number 3, I'm still thankful that God moves mountains. I learned recently, I've got so many stories like this that prove that God still moves mountains and he does miracles. Oh my gosh, the word miracle. You know, my fellow Reformed brothers and sisters, please don't get too worried about that word, but he still does. He performs miracles still. 10 years ago, a few weeks ago, I was watching this video that was produced by Radical, the David Platt Ministry, and they're interviewing the executive director of Voice of the Martyrs in Korea. And it was an American guy. I think he's an American. And so as he was talking, I learned something very interesting about what God is doing in North Korea. Again, moving mountains, doing miracles. 10 years ago, hardly anyone in North Korea had possession of a Bible. And now 10 years later, they estimate 8%. Doesn't sound like a lot, but 8% in 10 years of North Koreans now possess a Bible. Think about that. That is a miraculous marvel that's even been accomplished, that God moved heaven and earth to deliver the Bible through creative and strategic means to ensure that even North Koreans who live in one of the most isolated country on earth, the most oppressed country on earth, can have access to the gospel. And it wasn't because Americans or anyone else sent a lot of missionaries into North Korea. That's not really possible. It's because God moved mountains. He did a miracle. And so I'm thankful that God moves miracles. And that's just one example of many that I have. But it's the most recent example of a story I heard. I wanted to share that. Number four reason that I'm thankful as it relates to Living Enviado. I'm thankful for the men and women who live sent day in and day out. I was on X yesterday looking, and I noticed this comment by a guy. I don't know who he is. He's well followed. I don't know why. Because he made this comment that only those, basically what he was saying, only believers who are seminary trained are qualified to do ministry. That's hogwash. That's a bunch of BS. I'm sorry. If that was a prerequisite, boy, those early disciples, they missed the mark big time. But clearly they did not. I just couldn't believe what I read. So I am thankful that there are believers, lay leaders, pastors, missionaries, businessmen, educators, doctors, you name it, anyone and everyone who is a true disciple of Jesus Christ. I'm thankful that so many, now not everyone, we know that. I'm not naive, but so many are living sent, living in Enviado. I was just in Gravesend, in England, in the United Kingdom, just a week ago. The week ago of recording this. So I guess by the time this airs, 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, from the moment this episode aired, I was in Gravesend at a church, a very small church, 50 people. And I was teaching for 6 hours. And I was teaching just about the Great Commission, kind of a basic foundational course about the Great Commission. But what I walked away with was just an amazement of how many lay people in the church, teachers, business people, how passionate they are about sharing the gospel, how passionate they are about living sent, living enviado, and that they recognize it is not the job exclusively of the pastor, of missionaries to go and make disciples, but it's the job and how we're designed as believers to go make disciples of all nations. And in fact, this little British church of 50 people has 40 members, 50 attendees, multi-ethnic church, lives a block away from the largest Sikh temple in Europe. And this church of 50 people sees it as their responsibility to engage the nations because the nations is in their community. They don't see themselves as a church that's responsible for just going to the British, Anglo-Saxon British people. They see themselves as, if there's Sikh people here, they are our responsibility. If there's Muslims, Hindus, Buddhists, if they're in the community, they're our responsibility. They're called, they're designed. God put them there for those people. And so I'm thankful for people like that. I'm thankful for what they represent. They represent believers living the Great Commission, advancing the gospel, the power of the gospel to people who would normally never hear because of where they originally came from. And yet they're in a place where they have easier access. Now, there are some cultural things that I have to learn about, and I talk to them about that. Just because they're in Gravesend doesn't mean, they've got automatic gospel access, because you also have to think about their mindset, their worldview, and where they're coming from, and the definitions of words that they have. It's like talking to a Mormon. You can all say Jesus and God and the Holy Spirit, or they like to say Holy Ghost. You can talk about the Holy Bible. Of course, they like to refer to the King James Version as the only one. You could talk about all these things that evangelicals use in our terminology, and they use the same words. You could say terms, but when you talk about definitions behind those terms, it is a completely different world, a different worldview, a different mindset, a different point of view. So you still have to learn these things. So just because someone hears a word doesn't mean they understand the word accurately. And so while that is true, the other flip side is, because they're in a place like Gravesend, they do have a bit easier access to the gospel, and believers have an easier opportunity, or a better, maybe not better opportunity, because I don't give anyone a pass for where they live, but let's just say they have more freedom to share the gospel, more freedom to make disciples. So I'm thankful for men and women like this, lay leaders, pastors, missionaries who are out there living Enviado day in and day out in their jobs and in their community, because they're incredible examples of how we all should be living. And then finally, Living Enviado. This is a personal one. They're all personal, you could say, but this is really personal, especially as I think about some of the things my family are experiencing lately, some spiritual warfare stuff we've gone through, and some kind of spiritual warfare stuff we're going through. I'll just say collectively as a family, I'm thankful for my family who embrace how God has designed us, how God has created us to live a global disciple-making life. I'm thankful, especially for me, because I have to travel for work. I do try to be mindful of how long I'm gone. I'm mindful of not, I'm not one of those people who's in, on Friday, they come home on Friday, leave out on Monday, or leave out on Friday, come home on Sunday or Monday, that day. I'm not that kind of person. I know some missionaries who are like that, and they seem to be, proud of it. I don't know. It's kind of weird. But anyways, I'm not that kind of person. I did have a moment recently of about a month where I was gone for most of the month. And there's times when that happens and things and it just happens, schedules of certain trips or projects or events are out of my control, and I've got to be there. But I'm thankful that my family understands. I'm thankful my wife understands, my kids understand, and they're supportive of it. And in return, I do everything I can not to be gone when I don't need to be gone. And when I am gone, I am only gone for a certain amount of time, mostly. Now, this last trip was a bit long. Funny thing is, some people say, well, it's not long enough. For me, it was long. And in my men's Bible study at my church, the day before I left, one guy said, so how long are you going to be gone? I said, well, I'm going to be gone 11 days. And most of you are probably thinking, well, that's not very long. That's only 11 days. I can easily come in and out in 5 days. Or 6 days, depending if I'm going to the Middle East, 6 days. And that's including travel. Get there, do my thing, come back. I'm not there to hang out. I'm not there to go sightseeing. If it's a new place, I'll add a day and do some sightseeing. But normally, if I've already been there, done that, I'm not going to add more of that. I don't want to. I'm not interested. And so he made a comment. He says, oh, that's kind of funny, because you are typically, you go, of course, he was being a little bit, he was joking, but he goes, you go to the airport, you have your meeting, and then you get back on the plane and come home, and then you're done. That's an exaggeration, but he's right. I go, I do what I have to do, and I come home because I care about my family. And so I'm thankful for my family because they allow me to do this. They're okay with it. Of course, they miss me, and I miss them, but it hasn't hindered us as a family. It hasn't hurt us as a family. And so I'm extremely thankful to my bride and to my kids, who are very supportive of what I need to do, what God has designed me to do, and allowing me to do it and not nagging me or complaining that I'm traveling or anything like that. In fact, it's fun, especially when I'm talking with my son and he's asking some things about where I'm at, and especially when it comes to food, because we like to talk about food so much and just some things I'm enjoying. And of course, next year, Lord willing, both my kids will get to join me on a separate trip, just one at a time, but we'll see what happens next year. But I am thankful for that. So I'm just curious what you're thankful for. So if you're on YouTube, I would love to hear what you're thankful for. So just go to the comment section, let me know, especially as it relates to Living Sent. I would love to hear that. And I could add so many more things, but I did not want to make this long. And honestly, this could be a video that takes hours to complete if I were to talk about everything, but I did want to hit the top 5, or at least the top 5 that I was thinking about this morning. So anyways, thank you for listening and watching. And whatever platform you're on, if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe if you haven't already. Please like, please comment, please give us a favorable rating. Give us a thumbs up. Anyways, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Belated Thanksgiving. Today, my son is hosting a Thanksgiving party at our house, so I'm going to be there. And Merry Christmas. We're officially in the Christmas season now that Black Friday is here. I love Black Friday. I don't know about you. I love Black Friday. I love hunting for a deal. Side note, there are times when I travel abroad, I will negotiate things just for fun. I'll end up buying something I don't need just because I got to negotiate and I felt like I got an incredible price. Anyways, I don't want to take a rabbit trail, but I just thought I'd mention that. Anyways, happy Thanksgiving. Merry Christmas. And if you come back next week, we've got a great episode with a guy in South Texas and just what God is doing in the Hispanic world. So check back in next week for that with our interview with Billy. And get out there, live boldly, live courageously, and live enviado.